Why is the world silent about Iran? Explained by an Iranian. And this isn't just going to explain Iran, it's going to explain Hamas, Maduro, everything about the last few years in the most complete way that you have ever heard it. To do that, we're going to need a diagram. This is a standard issue oppressor hierarchy. The oppressors are the socialist dictators, the Islamist dictators, the jihadist regime. You have the IRGC, Hamas, Maduro, oppressors. Now, the oppressed, of course, are the people of those lands. These are the people of Iran. These are the people of Venezuela, the people of the Middle Eastern countries under the Islamist dictatorships or regimes. Seems pretty straightforward, but that's only if you live in something that we call the real world. Now, here's where things get interesting. Not everybody sees the world as it is. For those who have been ideologically subverted, which means essentially programmed to hate the West, they see a different hierarchy. Their hierarchy looks like this. This is the oppressor, okay? And who is this oppressor? The West, meaning the USA and Israel. These are their oppressors, okay? And if these are their oppressors, what does that convert this to? Very, very simply. These, your former oppressors, IRGC, Hamas, Maduro, they are now the oppressed, okay? Oppressed by the oppressor, that is the USA and Israel. So why do they see this false hierarchy instead of the actual hierarchy that exists in the real world? Here's where things get even more interesting. So when we divide this so that this becomes reality, okay? This is reality. What does this become? This is called the illusion. Now, who ends up in this category of being inside the illusion? What's so interesting is that those who claim to be against privilege are the ones who are in this illusion. And yet the only way you get into the illusion is if you are so distant, so out of touch from the real world, that you have the luxury of hallucinating your own reality, okay? You don't know Iranians that were murdered by the IRGC. You don't know Israelis that were affected by October 7th. You don't know Venezuelans who starved under Maduro's policies. You don't know Cubans whose family members were sent al paredon to the wall to be executed by revolutionary firing squad. You don't know Russians whose grandparents disappeared into gulags. You don't know Ukrainians whose family disappeared in the Holodomor. You don't know Indians. So the likelihood of entering the illusion is calculated by the distance between you and the real world. And if you're really, really, really fortunate to not know the horrors of the real world, that's what's going to make you very likely to conform to this illusion. Now let's start to piece this together. Why can't they talk about Iran? Because if they acknowledge that the IRGC, okay, the Islamic regime is oppressing Iranians, that violates their hierarchy. In their hierarchy, the IRGC is only bad because the US is oppressing them with sanctions, with US imperialism in a failed coup that happened 72,000 years ago, okay? That is their hierarchy. And so to admit that the IRGC are actually murdering Iranian people because they are terrorists, that violates the illusion. Not only does it violate the illusion, it retroactively violates the illusion of the past 2 years that they were pushing, that Hamas only killed people because they were oppressed. If they confess that the IRGC are terrorists, they have to also admit that Hamas, who are in the same jihadist family, are also oppressors. And guess what? Then the Houthis are also oppressors. And guess what? Then Hezbollah are also oppressors. That's something that they just can't do. That is why they can't speak up for Iran. I know you think it can't get worse, but it gets even worse. It's not just that they're silent about Iran. I wish that was the worst of it. Now they are undermining the massacre. Now they are mocking the massacre. Why? Here's where it gets real dark. This illusion that they live in, this is not a self-sustaining illusion. This illusion has to be sustained. Their identities have attached to this narrative, and so they will fight tooth and nail to protect it. When these people, okay, the actual oppressed, the people of Iran, Venezuela, Yemen, what have you, when they say these people are our oppressors, these are the people that are killing us, starving us, hurting us, when they tell you that, you know what that is? That is, okay, this is where it gets real sick. This is static interference. The cries of the actual oppressed becomes static interference that is trying to penetrate the illusion bubble. The illusion bubble that they have to protect tooth and nail to protect their identities. You see how the human ego prioritizes identity over humanity. So when they hear this static interference, this noise that's trying to penetrate their bubble, you know what they have to do? they have to make these people go bye-bye. You don't exist anymore. You're not being harmed. You're not being killed. You're not being massacred. In fact, what you are, if you're telling that story, you must be a mouthpiece for the oppressor, for the Zionists. And you want to know the real kicker? The answer to the question, how do these people who are so cruel, who are so merciless, who are so out of touch with reality, how do they go around saying that they are the people that are standing with the oppressed? This is the kicker, because in their world, they are.